The story opens with me, a pilot, sharing a childhood experience. You see, I once drew a picture of a boa constrictor swallowing an elephant, but adults, well, they dismissed my drawing, interpreting it as a hat. Disillusioned by their lack of imagination, I gave up my dream of becoming an artist. I grew up to become a pilot, and while flying over the Sahara Desert one day, my plane crashed. Stranded and trying to fix my aircraft, I met the little prince, a curious young boy who requested, "Please draw me a sheep." Reluctantly, I began to draw various animals until I sketched a sheep that satisfied the boy. Over time, I learned that the little prince is from a tiny planet, asteroid B612, where he lives alone. His planet is so small that he can watch the sunset multiple times in a day simply by shifting his position. The prince described his love for sunsets and his unique relationship with his rose. The rose is unlike any other, delicate and demanding, yet beautiful. The little prince tends to the rose, protecting her from the cold by covering her with a glass dome and shielding her from dangerous baobab trees that would overrun the planet if left unchecked. Despite the prince's affection for his rose, he grew frustrated with her vanity and contradictions. Unsure of her love and feeling unappreciated, he decided to leave his planet and travel the universe in search of wisdom. The little prince's journey took him to several planets, each inhabited by a peculiar adult, each symbolizing different adult behaviors. His first stop was a planet ruled by a king. The king claimed to rule over everything, but his power was an illusion. He issued commands that aligned with what would naturally happen, such as ordering the sun to set at a specific time when it's already due to set. The little prince was unimpressed by the king's desire for control, learning that authority without purpose is meaningless. On the next planet, the prince meets a conceited man who craves admiration. He asks the little prince to clap for him so he can acknowledge the applause. The conceited man represents those obsessed with praise and admiration, valuing others only for how they validate their egos. The prince finds this encounter ridiculous, realizing that the man's happiness depends entirely on others' opinions. Continuing his journey, the little prince lands on a planet inhabited by a drunkard. The drunkard drinks to forget his shame of being a drunkard, creating a vicious cycle of escapism. The little prince finds this deeply puzzling and sad, as the man's self-destructive behavior only deepens his unhappiness. Next, the little prince encounters a businessman who spends all his time counting stars, believing he owns them. The businessman is so engrossed in his work that he barely notices the prince's arrival. The businessman's fixation on numbers and wealth highlights the futility of materialism and the disconnection it creates from life's true beauty. On the fifth planet, the prince meets a lamplighter who follows an absurd routine, lighting and extinguishing a lamp every minute because his planet rotates so quickly. Though the lamplighter's task seems pointless, the little prince admires him for his dedication to following orders. The lamplighter's tireless commitment, even to a meaningless task, reflects the nature of blind obedience to duty. On the final planet, the little prince meets a geographer who records information about distant places without ever visiting them. The geographer asks the prince about his planet, but when the prince mentions the rose, the geographer dismisses her as unimportant because she is not permanent. This encounter teaches the little prince about the limitations of knowledge without experience and the fleeting nature of beauty. The little prince's journey eventually brings him to Earth, where he lands in the middle of the desert. He is astonished by the vastness of the planet, its size dwarfing his own tiny home. Here he meets a snake, who cryptically suggests that he can help the prince return to his planet, hinting at the snake's ability to bring death. This meeting sets the tone for the philosophical and melancholic undertones of the story. One of the most important encounters for the little prince is with a fox, who asks the prince to tame him. The fox explains that taming means forming bonds and creating unique connections. Initially, the little prince does not understand the need for such ties, but as he spends time with the fox, he learns about the power of relationships. The fox teaches the little prince that love and friendship make someone special, saying, "What is essential is invisible to the eye." This lesson becomes the central theme of the story, underscoring the importance of intangible emotional connections over appearances. The Garden of Roses. After parting ways with the fox, the little prince stumbles upon a garden full of roses, which shocks him, as he believed his rose was the only one of its kind. He realizes that his rose is not unique in appearance, but through the fox's lesson, he understands that his rose is special because of the time and love he has invested in her. This realization teaches him the value of emotional attachment and the depth of love beyond mere physical traits. Back in the desert, the little prince and the narrator, the pilot, grow closer as they share stories of their lives. As the pilot works to repair his plane, the little prince's wisdom and innocence touch him deeply. The pilot reflects on his own life and the narrow perspective of adults who often overlook the simple, essential things in life. The little prince begins to feel the pull to return home, to care for his rose. He worries that she is vulnerable without him and feels guilty for leaving her. The prince's thoughts about his planet and rose mirror the narrator's growing attachment to him. Their friendship becomes a source of comfort, yet it also foreshadows the inevitable separation between the two. The prince's desire to return to his planet intensifies, and he seeks out the snake, who had promised to help him. The prince tells the pilot that his journey is coming to an end. The snake bites the little prince, and he falls quietly to the ground. The narrator is devastated but respects the prince's decision. Though the boy's body appears lifeless, the narrator believes that his spirit has returned to his home, reuniting with his beloved rose. The story ends with the narrator's reflections on his time with the little prince. After fixing his plane and flying home, the narrator remains haunted by the memory of the boy and his gentle wisdom. Every time he looks up at the stars, he imagines the little prince living among them, smiling and laughing, keeping the memory of their friendship alive. The narrator asks readers to inform him if they ever meet the little prince, hinting at the universality of the story's themes and the enduring nature of childhood innocence and wonder. Like and subscribe to Bedtime Stories in 10 minutes.